Steve Jobs by Luke Gilsinger. Hi, I am Luke Gilsinger, and I am here to talk to you today about Steve Jobs and how he has inspired me. Sometimes when you innovate, you make mistakes, and it is best to admit them quickly and get on with improving your other innovations. Do you know whose wise words those are? Steve Jobs. I am I am here to talk to you today about Steve Jobs and how he has inspired me to have my own dream. That dream is starting a company of my own that creates computers. In the course of this learning experience, I was inspired to read about him. The book I found inspirable is Who is Steve Jobs, written by Pam Pollock and Meg Baviso. Let me fill it in on what I learned from this fantastic book and other online sources. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak are the founders of Apple. Apple is a company that makes computers, phones, and tablets. Steve Jobs was really good at marketing, and Steve Wozniak was really good at technology. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak wanted to make machines together, not just any machine, but the personal computer. Steve Jobs was born in San Francisco on February 24th, 1955. Then he got put up for adoption. He was adopted by Paul Clara Jobs. His little sister Patty got adopted later. They did not have much in common. When Steve was little, he liked to watch his dad build machines. Steve got a Heathkit from his friend and found out that one of his parts was missing. He looked at the phone book and he searched Bill Hewlett. The number, Bill Hewlett's number, the owner of HP. Then he called Bill Hewlett to complain. At the end of the call, Bill Hewlett offered a job to Steve and promised him a bag full of parts. Steve took the job, and that is where he met Steve Wozniak. Steve Wozniak was several years older than Steve Jobs was. Steve Wozniak was really into technology. He had a circuit board that a person could tell the computer what to do. Steve Jobs said, "Do you think we should sell them?" And Steve Wozniak said yes. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak wanted to start a company that sold circuit boards for people to use to build their own computer. And they started out in the Jobs garage. They made a sample computer so they could could show the people how it worked. It was called the Apple. The man at the store said they should sell the sample computers instead. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak decided that that was a good idea. They made one computer at a time. They had big dreams. Woz wanted a computer that had crisp graphics and good sounds. Steve wanted a plastic case because he thought it looked modern. Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs hired people to build the Apple II. The company grew and grew. Steve Jobs would yell at his employees if they made a mistake. Even if someone made a mistake, sometimes Steve would cry. Why did the employees keep on working with Apple? Because he had a marketing vision. He knew what people wanted. Then something terrible happened. Woz's private plane crashed. He didn't die, but he stopped working for Apple full time. And then he needed another employee, and it was the head of Pepsi Cola. He was there to teach him how to be a founder of a company. The first thing he talked about was the board. It can fire anyone, even the founder of the company. Later on, Steve went to his board in hopes of firing the head of Pepsi Cola. Instead, he was indeed fired himself. Getting fired from his own company stop Steve Jobs? No. He was extremely upset, but he didn't quit. He jumped right back into the company, and he ended up saving the company. And today, they are very successful, all because of Steve Jobs not willing to give up on his dream. Steve Jobs' enduring personality has inspired me to never give up. Even when things get difficult or make mistakes. For example, I started taking apart a computer and fixing it when I was just 2 years old. It didn't work at first. My first attempt was a fail by a lot. I didn't even have the right parts. I actually tried to put a phone in there. No surprise, it didn't work. But I didn't give up trying. I can't even tell you how many times I tried. Over the course of the next few years, I made many more attempts without being successful until I was 6 years old. During the successful attempt, I finally got the right parts and plugged it in correctly. I was so excited I ran to my mom and my dad and told them all about it. This is my first personal connection to Steve Jobs. I was persistent and finally I was able to make my old computer work. With Steve Jobs, I as inspiration today. I still work on computers, and I have recently built a computer that I am very proud of. It has lights on the fans. It also has a fan control because of how many fans I can put on it. The top speed of the fans inside is 1,100 RPM. This new computer is used for many things, and it runs with a solid state drive. A solid state drive is a type of hard drive that is much better than the traditional hard drive. It also a solid state drive allows the computer to run much faster. My dream of starting a company, making my own company, making computers is very important to me. I have learned from Steve Jobs that is going to be hard, but to me it is more than possible. I intend to learn from my mistakes and continue work on computers and become a billionaire one day. I will take Steve Jobs' words, my journey. Sometimes when you innovate, you make mistakes. It is best to admit them quickly and get on improving your other innovations. One day, I hope Luke's Computer Corner is just successful as Apple computers.